Welcome back to Show Me the Money. This is our second episode, and for those of you who missed out on the first episode where we focused on FICO credit scoring, Fair Isaac Company is FICO, we were talking FICO, and we also talked about car loans and mortgages and the best way to get access to car loans and mortgages and to get the best rates possible based on having the highest credit score. I'm Mike Shuman with Vermont VA Federal Credit Union. Now, if you have any questions for future programs, and we plan on doing these programs on a monthly basis, and we've already done our first show, please look out for it. We're Talking FICO is a lot of fun and educational, and on top of that, you save some money. You can't go wrong with that. So if you want to send an email for future programs, for questions, I'm willing to answer them on the air. My email address is Mike, M-I-K-E, at vtvafcu.com. Today's show is about Take Control. Take Control is a program about empowerment, about personal finance, empowerment, best practices, and how you can succeed. Who? You. Anyone. Everyone. Everyone is a financial consumer. We're all out there. You go out there and you have a job, and you have money that comes in, or if you have money that you're spending, you are a financial consumer. So we want to come up with ways to empower you, to provide flexibility, because flexibility when it comes to personal finance is freedom. This could be for anyone, as I just mentioned. It could be for individuals, groups, students, prospective business owners, if you're interested in owning your own business, prospective homeowners, prospective borrowers of any kind, and ultimately future millionaires. And ultimately anyone can become a future millionaire eventually, and it takes a little bit of time. Getting rich quick does not work. I can tell you that right here and now. If you play the lottery, the odds are you're not going to win. But if you save, live beneath your means, save, invest, over time you can make money. And if you put it into the context of investing and getting comfortable investing, we'll talk about that. If you think about where the stock market was about 30, 35, 40 years ago, it was about 1,000 points on the Dow Jones Industrial Average 35 years ago. As of most recently, it is 18,000. And of course, it changes from moment to moment. So when you see the show, it may be different from that. But think about it. In 35 years, it has gone from 1,000 on the Dow Jones to 18,000. If you put in $10,000, that is now worth about $180,000. So that's a big deal. And ultimately, we want to help people so they start living beneath their means, start saving, investing, and ultimately become millionaires if they possibly can, so they can have a nice retirement and relax and have that flexibility and have that freedom. And that's what we're talking about today. Not all of us are prepared with a strategy for success, and that's what we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about best practices, are recommended to be on top of your finances, to be in control, to succeed. This is all about success. We want you to succeed, and you want to succeed too, ultimately. You want to avoid pitfalls that we can all make to reach our goals. Sometimes we are our own worst enemy. We want to avoid that at all costs. The following tried and true strategies are best practices for financial success. It all starts with living beneath your means. You make this, and you spend this. Simple as that. Determining what are wants versus needs. You want to keep your borrowing and spending to a minimum? Well, maximize your income. And if you do need to borrow, and as a credit union, we provide the best value out there, the best rates and prices for loans. So if you need a car loan, you absolutely need a car, and you need a car loan to get to work. That's reasonable. So you want to borrow at the lowest rate possible that you can keep your expenses low. And what kind of vehicle you buy. So you have better gas mileage, because the price of gas was at $2 a gallon or thereabouts recently, just a few months ago, and it's gone back up. It's gone back up to almost, I just passed the station 289, it keeps going up, and may hit $3, it may come back down. We don't know, but the thing is, the less you spend, the more that goes into your pocket. So ultimately, you want to maximize your income, minimize your spending based on more needs than wants. You want to save the surplus and invest to save on taxes and build an asset that will allow you to spend in the future. That could be a 401k or 403b for nonprofits. It could be a Roth IRA. once again, flexibility in your personal finances and flexibility in your life, and flexibility provides freedom, and that's really what we're talking about. So take control is a direct result of many years in financial services that I've had, where consumers can be too fatalistic that things just happen. And things don't just happen. You actually have to have a plan. You have to have a strategy for success. It's not complicated, it's not brain surgery, and I'm not a brain surgeon. But certainly I have a lot of experience in trying to help people reach their goals, and if they hit bumps in the road, so that hopefully the road will be a little bit smoother as time goes by. We want positive things to happen. Starts with budgeting. And I know budgeting for many people is a 4-letter word, but it really isn't. If you count the number of letters, it really isn't. Beyond that, not everyone needs to budget, but there are ways of looking at it. Living beneath your means, maximize savings and invest for greater return. Does budgeting mean that you need to follow a specific budget? Sometimes. It's an excellent idea to have a written budget that you can follow. Those that are very disciplined in their spending may be able to live beneath their means without a written budget. The easiest way to tell is that you see your savings increase, your investments increase, and your overall net worth increase. And if you have any debts beyond a mortgage, a written budget is probably necessary, as an increase in savings means little if you have credit card balances outstanding. Following this approach, and I'm not selling anything, I'm just trying to provide good and best practices so you can succeed. It can put you into a situation you don't need a written budget. Some people absolutely do need to do that. Some may find it comforting and necessary to follow a written budget at all times. It's very individualized based on your comfort zone and where you are in the process. It makes sense to start with a written budget for many people. This will also make you aware of your actual cash income and where the money goes. If expenses exceed income, the following approach can help you cut expenses. Increasing income is also a possibility to live beneath your means at your present job, improving your income potential in the marketplace, or even a second job. A lot of people work second and third jobs. I've done it. And best example I can give you is Jay Leno. Jay Leno had 2 jobs at one point in time. He was a Tonight Show host, but he would go on the road. And one of those sources of income, he would just bank, didn't spend it. The other job, I know, is a lot more than most of us make, but that's the strategy. You want to do what you can to maximize your income and minimize your expenses and focus on your needs more so than your wants. Make more than you spend, and when you spend wisely. You know what? You can say no. If you see something you really need, it's okay. But it's okay to say no if it's a want, and you realize, you know what, I can't necessarily afford it because I have credit card debt or what have you. Once again, you need a car. Okay, I understand that. Once again, look at vehicles that provide good gas mileage. It's okay for a vehicle to be efficient, fuel efficient. That's important. You want to get the best bang for your buck when you're going out there. You like the vehicle. It could be a sedan, it could be a coupe, it could be a convertible, and in this area, likely to be a truck or an SUV. That's fine, but you want to try to get the best gas mileage possible because the price of gas generally does have a tendency to go up over time, and we have a strategy to address that as well. If you own a business requiring transporting things, I can understand you also may need an SUV or a truck. As a consumer, you want to minimize those expenses. And one strategy that I've come up with, which is also very helpful, which ties into this, is when the price of gas is really low and you're saving a little bit of money, what should I do with that money? A lot of people ask. Well, you know what? Open up a Roth IRA. Roth IRA is an individual retirement account, the type of account for your retirement where when you take the money out, you don't pay taxes on it, which is pretty nice. And you can invest in what's called an energy fund. Now, I don't recommend you do it when prices are high. Why? Because when prices are high on gas, the price of these stock mutual funds or ETFs, exchange-traded funds that invest in energy shares, they have a tendency to be higher. What you want to, and you don't have much money to begin with because the price of gas is probably $4 a gallon. When the price of gas is $2 or so, $2.50, and you have a little bit of extra cash, put that money to the side. Put it into some of it, not all of it, but into an energy fund. So when the price of gas is low, you're paying a little extra, but you're paying it to yourself. And when the price of gas is high, what happens? The price of that fund or exchange-traded fund goes up. All of a sudden, you have an asset that has increased in value, and you don't have to put money into it after that, for that moment, until prices come down again. Because when the price is up, you can see the advantage of investing when prices are low. So it's forced savings. It forces a discipline where you're buying low, and then you're holding off when it's higher because then you have the need to actually buy gas at that point in time. So that's a good example of a best practice that'll save you some money. With a Roth IRA, it's a good idea to have money in, say, an index fund, which are low cost, and then a portion of it into an energy fund or ETF. It's really, very, very, very helpful for you. Next thing regarding budgeting and saving strategies, credit card debts. Credit card balances and the interest and your fees that you pay they're essentially a self-imposed tax that you pay to the credit card issuer. And of course, as a credit union, we offer credit cards. But once again, if you're going to get a credit card, get one with no annual fee, like we offer at a credit union, and usually better rates and terms. Once again, that's what a credit union does. You are a member of a financial cooperative, a member of a credit union. Well, some issuers charge relatively reasonable rates, like a credit union. The best rate to pay is actually 0. Not 0% in a balance transfer offer, where you may have to pay a balance transfer fee. If you have a $10,000 credit card, the transfer fee on $10,000 is $250. Great. I pay 0%. You can tell all your friends at a cocktail party, but you've just paid a $250 fee. So, I mean, that offsets that. The goal is to pay 0 interest and fees. By living beneath your means, the focus is to pay down and eventually pay off credit card debt. As this is usually the highest rate debt people pay, and there's no tax benefits on interest paid. Unlike mortgage interest, or in many cases, student loan interest could be deductible on your taxes, your federal taxes. Once your credit card balances are paid in full, and if you pay the credit cards in full and on time and every month, no interest will accrue. And if you watch We're Talking FICO, you may remember that'll actually help your credit score as well, because your balance to limit ratio is better when your balances are low and your limits are high, and you don't close out the credit card accounts once you actually get it down to 0. Once you've reached this point where you've got down to a 0 balance on your credit cards, make sure that all your credit cards have no annual fee. You've got a choice. There are plenty. We usually credit unions offer no annual fee credit cards. If you have any credit cards with an annual fee, find an alternative credit card issuer like a credit union, get a credit card from us or another credit union, and then cancel those other cards. You know what? At the end of the day, it doesn't hurt your credit score if you already established a credit card elsewhere and then you close it. Why are you paying, say, $50? Do you have other uses for it? That's a tank of gas for a lot of people. Wouldn't you rather use it for that than to help prop up the earnings of some financial institution? It's, you always have to remember, you have to look out for number one. So better that you have the annual fee in your pocket. Before you use credit cards again, you must be confident that when you make each and every purchase that you make, you're 100% sure that when the bill comes in, you can pay it in full. If you are not 100% sure, you need to pay for things in cash. You control the plastic. Now, if we're talking about a big purchase like a car, once again, a car loan does make sense, usually much lower rate because they are collateralized as well. And if you have good credit, an even lower rate. You control the plastic. Remember this. The plastic does not control you. I've been working with folks for many years, and they are fearful in many circumstances about credit cards. It is plastic. This is take control. You take control of the plastic. The plastic does not control you. And if you don't have that control, you put the card away. Simple as that. Taking control of paying credit on time, paying credit card balances down, and not closing the cards, unless they have an annual fee, will keep your credit score high, and that's very important. Welcome back. Mike Shuman from Vermont VA Federal Credit Union, and we've been talking about a strategy to help you ultimately take control of your finances, your personal finances, best practices, living beneath your means, finding ways of making more than you earn, determining your wants versus your needs, and saving, building a surplus, and then investing it so that ultimately you'll have a nice healthy retirement, and you can't beat that. There are two basic strategies for paying off credit card balances. We were just talking about credit cards. Unless you own a home with equity in it, then an equity loan or line of credit does make a lot of sense. Why? Because the rates are low and lower than credit cards, and the interest often is tax deductible on your federal taxes. So that can be a win-win. If you don't own a home, sometimes for simplicity to get into a consolidation loan, a personal consolidation loan, can make sense. Once again, go to your credit union and you'll be able to get a good deal on a personal loan as well. Simplify your existence, simplify your life. We'll come up with strategies also to simplify your existence as well. If you don't do those things, there are two other approaches. The debt snowball, paying off the lowest balances until they're paid in full. Then what you do is, well, you pay off the next credit card balance. So you're starting with the lowest credit card balance today is $500, but you pay all the other ones on time. You don't miss any, you pay the minimum. But the lowest when you start and you get to the $500, the balance, you pay it off, you move to the next credit card balance, $1,000, and you work on that, still paying the other credit cards on time, minimum balance, and then you get to the 1,000. You keep working until you get to the highest credit card balance until it's completely paid off. So that's the strategy, the debt snowball. You see the snowball effect of each credit card being paid in full until it's done. The next one is, and that actually is very helpful for a lot of people. That next one is highest rate first. Ultimately, you want to pay the highest rate credit card first if you can, because when you make a payment on a credit card, you're paying interest first. And if you're paying 10% interest on a credit card on $1,000, you're paying $100 a year in interest. If you have a 20% credit card, you're paying $200 a year in interest. It's really helpful if you can get rid of that 20% credit card so you don't have to pay the $200 a year interest. It makes a lot of sense. But once again, look at these two strategies, debt snowball and paying higher interest rates first, and see what works for you. Personal finance, to a large degree, is about comfort level. How comfortable are you and how you handle your finances? And everyone has their own strategy how they handle their payments. Some people only pay in cash. Some people only pay with credit. Some people only pay with debit cards, maybe a mix. People do what they do, and that's fine. But you want to make sure that you're doing it in a way that you are successful, and that's really the key. When you have credit card balances, the credit cards go into, so you don't add to your balances. The credit card should go into a bowl of water, placed into a freezer, so the balances don't increase. That's just, one of those funny things that some people do, but it can be helpful because if it's in your wallet, you may use it. And if you have trouble controlling your spending, once again, you're taking control and you're putting it where you're putting it, which is in a bowl of water into the freezer. All right, congratulations, we hope. You've paid off your credit card balances and you pay them off each and every month. Now the strategy adjusts because you want to try to limit your debts. Once again, a home equity loan, line or personal loan was an option for you, or if you pay through the debt snowball or paying highest interest rate first. Next debt to be paid off faster, especially if you took out a personal loan and you have just that one loan, is the personal loan debt. Once again, they don't have tax benefits, so you want to focus on that to a large degree, and the rate's probably higher than a car loan. Next on the agenda, because this is tiered, start with credit cards, high rates, no deduction on your taxes, then personal loans. Next on the list, it could be either car loans or student loans. And it depends. Student loans often have tax benefits. What's the lower rate? If you have a car loan at around 5%, then if it is higher than 5%, then come to your credit union or refinance, for goodness sake. Save money that way. And then you can focus on prepaying your student loan debt. Student loan debt can vary greatly. If you have a rate of less than 5%, you can pay that slowly and over time. But once again, you have interest that may very well be tax deductible. And that's important too, because you know what? That was an investment in yourself so that you could presumably have a happier life and make more money, and all these things are extraordinarily helpful. But the higher you have on your car loan, the more you need to refinance and go back to our We're Talking FICO series to improve your credit score. The higher your credit score, the lower the rate will be. And credit unions love to refinance car loans so that their members save money. That is what we're all about. You're a member owner, we want you to save money. The reason it can be a little dicey between these two things also is if you have student loan debt and you hit a really bad bump in the road, figuratively speaking, what happens is if you go into bankruptcy, student loans almost invariably are not dischargeable in bankruptcy. So you would still have to pay those. That's why that can be an option, no matter what the rate is, to prepay those. And once again, that's a stylistic issue. Some people want to pay off those student loans as soon as they possibly can. I completely understand that. And it can make a lot of sense. So be aware of these things. If you do have student loan debt, I would definitely recommend, if you have private student loan debt, really prepay that first and foremost. Why? Generally higher rates. Also, they're usually variable rates, meaning that when rates go up, and they haven't in 9 years, but they will eventually, those are student loans you definitely want to prepay before you pay your federal loans, or prepay your federal loans. Definitely pay everything on time. You never want to miss a payment for anything, but it's just a focal point of what do you focus on, and private student loans are an important one after you've paid off your credit card debt, you've paid off your personal loans, and you're working on private student loans. That can be very important. Once again, that is, they may have tax benefits, but you don't want to get caught in a vice where rates are going up and you can't get out of it through bankruptcy, et cetera. I would also make a case, most parents have to co-sign for a private student loan, and if you do get a private student loan, make sure you have life insurance on the child. And I've actually come across this, and it's a horrible thing, where a mom co-signed for her daughter, and her daughter died tragically. Horrible situation. It was compounded by the fact that mom signed for $80,000 in private student loans, which would not be forgiven. So here she is writing a check every month, which is to remind her of her deceased daughter. So that was, when I came across this circumstance, it was just heart-wrenching, and it is, and I feel horrible for that woman. So you really want to focus on private student loans as much as you can, but you know what, take out a term life insurance policy on the child. It's short money relative to writing a check every month, and it makes a lot of sense. Co-signing loans can be a problem. First of all, you're completely responsible for the loan being paid back in full and on time, no matter what your co-borrower states. I can tell you as a lender, that's exactly what's going to happen. You are responsible. Essentially, the lender is telling you and the borrower's not creditworthy. They can't get a loan on their own. They need a co-borrower or co-signer. Try to avoid it at all costs, and there are a variety of reasons, because ultimately you are responsible. You're going to have to pay for it without question. If you need credit in the future and you've co-signed a loan, this debt can be held against you if the loan's not paid back regularly by the borrower, and that's important. It can lower your credit score if they don't pay it back, making the loan that you need in the future less likely and more expensive, because once again, if you have perfect credit except for a co-signed loan, your score is going to go down. You're going to pay more for credit. That loan that you co-signed is also going to hurt your ability to qualify based on what's called the debt-to-income ratio, because even though it may not necessarily be your loan, even though you've co-signed, it is your loan, your debt-to-income ratio can be bumped up. What does that mean exactly? Lenders look at the obligations you have relative to your income. It's called the debt-to-income ratio. It's important for us as lenders, but also it's important for you because you want to keep the doors of flexibility open, so just in case you ever need to borrow. And I'll give you the best example. The best example is if you own a home and you want to refinance it. You're at 5% and you want to refinance it down to 4%. But your debt-to-income ratio is too high because you co-signed a loan. If you have a ratio, a debt-to-income ratio, meaning that you make $10,000 a month, nice number. However, 45% is the highest that a fixed rate loan can generally go to. So that's $4,500. But you've co-signed for someone's car loan, which is $500 a month. That may bring you to $5,000 in debts. So 5,000 divided by 10,000 is 50. It's too high. It's going to knock you out of the ballpark. And I would love to help, and hopefully I would be able to help because we hold most of our mortgages in portfolio. But a lot of other lenders out there may just say no because the secondary market, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, you may have heard of those folks, they actually set the rules, and they've been very stringent of late about debt-to-income ratio. So co-signing a loan, try to avoid that at all costs. The best recommendation is, if it is a child or a grandchild, send them to the credit union to put together a plan. Usually the issues are based on credit, which we can help. Look at the credit and see what we can do to improve it. It's always a good way to get it. That way, when they come back in 6, 9, 12 months, they're more likely to get the loan in at a lower rate. Once again, that's a good deal. And maybe ultimately they become more responsible, so that going forward, it's a bump in the road for them and things just get better. The other thing is, let's say we actually had someone come into the credit union just past week or so who had zero credit whatsoever, but they had a good job and they were putting down a good sized down payment. And they set up the loan with auto pay. We're very reasonable folks at credit unions. You come in and you're buying a car to get to work and you're going to be putting down a substantial sum as a down payment. That shows us something, that you have skin in the game, as we like to say. Now, as far as paying things down, you want to start with credit cards, personal loans, student loans or car loans. We try to figure that out. If you have no other debt whatsoever, you want to focus on your mortgage debt. That's an option, but it also assumes that you're doing as much as you possibly can with your 401k, your 403b, your Roth IRA. You're saving for retirement. It's a balancing act. So the surplus that you have from all this money that you're saving by not paying credit cards and interest and fees and personal loans and so on and so forth, you can prepay your mortgage. That's fine, but make sure balanced on that is that you're focusing on saving, taking some of your savings and putting it towards Roth IRA, 401k, 403b. And if you put into a Roth IRA, you take the money out tax-free after you're 59 and a half, it's your money. You don't have to worry about paying the government anything, state or federal. If you are putting money to your 401k or 403b, every dollar you put in, you actually are building an asset of that dollar. You may get a company match, which is nice. So if you put in $1, they match $1, that's $2 right there. On top of that, you actually save on federal and state taxes because it is pre-tax income. If you put away $5,000 a year and you make $40,000 a year, your net income actually is $35,000 and you're taxed based on the $35,000. So that really does make a lot of sense. We've talked about this when we were talking about FICO, and that is higher credit score. Really focus on that. It's based on the fundamental premise of using credit wisely and sparingly. So you only use credit when you absolutely need it, and you pay everything on time, you're going to be in good shape. And once again, you're more likely to get credit, and the interest rate is likely to be much lower. Before you apply for credit, we also recommend you go to annualcreditreport.com. That is a government, mandated website actually, government mandated website from about 10 or so years ago. So people can get a free copy of your credit report, annualcreditreport.com, not freecreditreport.com, not the pirate guy, and he's very fun and exciting. But you want to just clear up any negative or inaccurate information at annualcreditreport.com. Utilizing online tools to take control. I'm a big fan of online bill pay, and for a few reasons. It simplifies your life. I believe it's something like 49 cents now for a stamp. If you have 10 or 15 bills you pay every month, that's another $5 or $7.50 that you're putting out to stamps. You don't have to do that. You can use online bill pay. Our credit union and most credit unions don't charge anything for online bill pay. You can see your transactions online banking, online bill pay. You make the determination. You're taking control of what's happening with the bills that you pay. You can check the accuracy. You want to invest in yourself. That's really important. We talked about student loans. That's an investment in yourself. You want to invest wisely as the college value matters. That's important. We talked to a lot of people. They're not sure where they're going to go. But that's maximizing your income and minimizing your expenses also. You're going to college, hopefully. If you do that, you're likely to make money with a bachelor's or master's degree. You make more money. That's just the nature of it. You're more marketable on one hand. But you also want to offset that by limiting the expenditures, and student loan debt is a big problem for a lot of individuals. The average is about $30,000 per graduating student, and that seems to be increasing every year. If you get into Harvard, another Ivy League school, Dartmouth, that can be a difference maker as far as your income. You do whatever you can, and oftentimes they have big endowments so they can actually minimize the expense that you have to put out. Community colleges are great. Go to community college for a couple of years, it's very short money, and from there, maybe go to a public college after that. Once again, you're investing in yourself and human capital. That's one way of really succeeding, maximizing your income and human capital in you. And that's really helpful, and because budgeting can be boring, so you want to make sure I'm making as much as I possibly can, and I'm minimizing my expenditures, determining wants versus needs, but also this is another way so you don't get yourself into trouble over 20 or 30 years. One thing that I also like to make people aware of, car leasing. One of my compadres actually calls it fleecing. They love the new car smell. So you've got to be careful when it comes to leasing. Leasing is just another way of financing a vehicle, and you're getting into a vehicle for a very long period, well, actually it can be a short period of time, but what will end up happening is you'll continuously have a car payment, and that's not helpful. If you do a car lease, come to your credit union for a lease buyout. That way you can own the car and then make payments. The average car is 11 years old on the road. Why is that? Well, people, sometimes they can't afford new vehicles. Completely understand that. But also, cars are better now. They can last 10 or 11 years. So leasing a car for 3 years often doesn't make a lot of sense. For some people who are self-employed, they like to do it because they get a tax benefit, but generally it's not the best approach as far as we're concerned. Hi, Mike Shuman with Vermont VA Federal Credit Union. To become a member of our credit union, just remember, if you live, work, worship, or attend school in Windsor County, Orange County, Sullivan, or Grafton counties, or you have a family member that lives in any of those counties, you put $5 into a savings account and you are a member owner. So join a credit union. And in the states in northern New England, more people actually belong to credit unions than in other parts of the country. So we've been talking recently about living beneath your means, making as much as you can, investing in yourself, human capital, minimizing your expenses, so you have a surplus and you can invest that surplus. Investing that surplus will eventually, over time, make you a millionaire. As I mentioned earlier, 35 years ago, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was at 1,000. Most recently, it's 18,000. So I'm not saying over the next 35 years it's going to go up 18 times, but if it's, in all likelihood over time, if history is any guide, then the stock market will be your best investment, especially when you're young. So you're going to have your savings become investments, and it's going to go up. The surplus is so imperative because you're going to make a determination when you make more than you earn and you have that surplus, what do you do with it? And the 401k, the 403b, the Roth IRA, these are all very, very powerful tools to help you. Those are umbrellas as retirement accounts that you can invest within the umbrella. What do I invest in? Well, that's a good question. And you want to focus on a couple things. You want to make sure that you do have enough cash available depending upon your job situation. If you have a good job where business is growing and everything's fine, you could save 6 months worth of your surplus and put into savings. You're not going to make much on your money. Sometimes it's an issue of return on capital as opposed to a return of capital. So that's short-term money. Short-term money should always be safe. Longer-term money should be invested. Once again, if you go back years and years and years, and you go back to any time frame, 10, 15, 20 years over time, stock markets are a good place to invest, and you should seek help from a financial advisor if you need to feel comfortable with that. That's absolutely fine. We completely understand that. If you are in a business that is seasonal or cyclical or struggling, you should probably have 9 to 12 months worth of expenses. That's usually a good rule of thumb, just in case there's an issue, once again, a bump in the road in your employment situation. And if you have a situation where you can invest in your company stock, and they do so at a discount, that's okay too, but don't put more than 5 or 10% in. Those are just good rules of thumb. If something were to go wrong with that business, it's a big deal. You lose your job, and it's possible the stock could go down. And that's a double whammy. And going back a few years, there were a couple businesses. One was Enron, another was WorldCom. People lost their jobs because the business went under, and a lot of people had 70, 80% of their savings investments in the company stock. They lost their job, their income, they lost their wealth. And that is the double whammy that you need to be aware of. Funds that you just don't need for a long time, you can put away. That's where you want a return on your capital. As inflation will eat away at your cash flow needs in retirement, if it's 20, 30, or 40 more years from now. The proof is clear for car lovers. We've been talking about cars. The average car in 1972, and I looked this up on the Google, was $3,500. A gallon of gas was 30 cents a gallon. The average car selling price now, 2015, is $31,000. And as I said, I just passed a gas station that just bumped up their price to $285, but generally it's around $270, $275 as of the taping of the show. And even the house that I grew up in, my parents bought that in the 60s for in the $30,000 range, and now it's gone up and up and up and up, and it recently sold for a a multiple of that. So it's the people who've bought houses for the past 50 years, with the exception of the early part of the century, they didn't do well. But it's important that you buy any asset at the lowest price possible. So you make money on real estate, as an example, when you buy. And if you have time on your side, certainly that will benefit you, but you certainly don't want to be the highest bidder for anything. Once again, surplus. We talked about surplus. Excess funds should be invested in your employer's 401k or 403b, at least to the match, if not more. More is better as you're building that asset. By saving and investing now, this asset will become future cash flow, future spending. It's not that you're not spending. You're saving, investing to spend in the future. You're always going to spend, but spend a little less today so you can spend more in the future because you'll have more. By living beneath your means, you're not spending now. The other reason more is better taxes, as I mentioned before. Every dollar you put into a 401k or a 403b reduces your taxable income. Can't beat it. You're building your asset, you're building more of it when you get a company match, and you're saving money in taxes. It's a nice deal. Contributing to the Roth IRA, as I've mentioned before. It's advisable. The contributions are not tax-free, unlike a 401k or 403b. The withdrawals after age 59 and a half are tax-free. Contributions to a Roth IRA can also be used in an emergency with no tax consequences when you're younger than 59 and a half. So whatever you put in, not the earnings, but what you put in, you can actually take out if something bad happens. Maxing out can be a challenge for people, but just to let you know what the numbers are. For a Roth IRA, it's $5,500 per year if you're under age 50, and $6,500 if you're 50 or over at present. And that does change occasionally. And actually, based on the change, 401ks and 403bs, those recently changed as well. $18,000 is the most that someone can put away. And think about the savings that your investment's going to grow, and also the savings you have on taxes when you do that. $18,000 is the most. It's a lot of money, I understand that. If you're under age 50, or $24,000 just changed this year if you're 50 or over. You want a dollar cost average. What does that mean? Every pay period, you take whatever the money it is that's surplus, and you have it go every week or every 2 weeks or every month. Whenever you get paid, it goes into your 401k or 403b or your Roth IRA. Every pay period, you're paying yourself first. That's a nice deal. A diversified portfolio of stock and bond mutual funds. And you know, everyone flips out when the market goes down. Celebrate. Enjoy it. Do you like to buy socks on sale at Walmart? Well, why would you want to buy stocks on sale? So turn it on its head. One of the best investors of all time is Warren Buffett, and one of his great axioms is, when people are fearful, be greedy, and when people are greedy, be fearful. That just means that when things are doing so well, be a little concerned, take a little, maybe even take a little off the table. But when things are really, really bad, the 2008 financial crisis, that's when Warren Buffett really, really did well because he had cash available to invest. Now, we don't all have that, but do what you can while you can, and you live to these best practices, and you'll be able to become a millionaire in just a matter of 30, 35, 40 years. Once again, anyone can get rich slowly. Getting rich fast, it rarely happens. I mean rarely. It does happen very, very rarely. So that's what you really want to do. Just remember, you're buying a long-term investment when the stock market goes down. It's going to increase over time at a sale price. Keep doing this to the maximum that you can afford. It'll allow you to grow that asset. That'll become income when you retire, and will save you on state and federal taxes presently. Your employer, once again, may provide a match. An instant bonus. Get it for every dollar, they match a dollar, you get 100% return on your investment. You can't beat that with a stick. You know, we don't know where the future is going to be as far as the stock market or any of the markets, but the likelihood is that it will be at least more than it is today. So over time, time is your friend. Keep some cash on the side available for really bad down days, as I mentioned. Be greedy when people are fearful, so you can buy more shares. Celebrate your brilliance as you see statements when the market recovers. That's a wonderful thing. With higher balances after the market recovers. That's a nice deal. The market tries to scare you to get you out in the short term. So when it goes down big, it scares people out. Then you're selling low. You want to buy low and sell high. You've got to turn it on its head. Never sell at that time. Sell on your schedule as part of rebalancing with market highs, and as we age, to reduce risk. we get older and closer to 65, time is less of our friend. It's no longer our friend, so we need to be aware of that. Well, I thank you for this particular time. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoyed We're Talking FICO. Please go back to that. And once again, I'm Mike Shuman with Vermont VA Federal Credit Union. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, mike@vtvafcu.com, and thank you very much for your time.